Congratulations, you have now successfully completed Module 1 of our Grow, of our B20M program. Let us now go into the second module, and we're going to talk about your strategy. How are we going to build a 20 million ringgit business? Earlier, we ended by talking about knowing the cash formula for success. Now let us move on and say, what are your own expectations as you want to be successful in this business? We said earlier that number one, you need to work hard the first few years in macro regional, and that's because you need to build up a large enough client base. And we said you need to embrace the cash formula for success. We already know earlier, cash stands for knowledge, attitude, skills, good working habits, also plus the use of our tools. And when you do all that, and you use all that, you'll find that you would have actually achieved the expectations of your customers. Now, more importantly is this. You need to begin with the end in mind. I wonder whether you have read Stephen Covey's book, now very famous, that says The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you haven't, my friends, I strongly urge you to go and get your hands on a copy of that book and read it. I promise you, your life will be transformed if you practice what Stephen Covey says. Now, this principle of beginning with the end in mind is actually one of those 7 habits that Stephen Covey puts forward. What should be the end in mind? Where should we begin with? What kind of goals must we have? Because unless you know where you are heading, you will never know which road to take. Isn't that true? So, what should be our end in mind? And we are saying that you must aim to become a GEMS Club member, not only just a GEMS Club member, but at least be an Emerald. Where, in order to qualify as an Emerald, you need to have at least 20 million ringgit in total client funds. And why 20 million ringgit? Well, because 20 million ringgit means you will earn a passive income of about 8,000 ringgit a month. Now, why it is so important? I said earlier in the program that it is Macro Mutual's vision to have 500 advisors, each managing 20 million ringgit. What does it mean? It augurs well both for the company as well as for ourselves, if indeed we have that 20 million ringgit. We have already established the fact that front-end fees will fall. In fact, as you know, our latest fund, the HW Sharia fund, the maximum initial charge is now lowered to 5.5. And you can believe that from now onwards, fund initial charges can only come down. It will never go up again. So when the initial charges fall, it means that your transaction-based commission will fall. And you know of the old saying that desperate people do desperate things. So on the other hand, if you actually have the 20 million or more in your total client funds, and when you have an income of 8,000 or so a month, you'll find that your life will be very complete. Your life will be very relaxed, and you won't have to resort to doing desperate measures. Yes? So 20 million, that should be your end in mind. You're beginning with the end in mind. Right. What should your strategy be in order to reach the 20 million ringgit in as fast a time as possible? Well, we say number one. All you need to do from today onwards is to find clients who can invest 1,000 ringgit minimum on a regular basis after an initial amount. Now let me ask you a question. Do you think it is easy to find people who can put aside 1,000 ringgit a month after an initial amount? Well, I have to leave that answer to you. The point is that if you look for them, they can be found. And then, on top of that, you also have other products which you can forward to them. We got the Macro Life Plus, Macro Takaful Plus, plus the OSK Will Writing. Now, why are we lumping this together with the unit trust? The answer is very simple. Because you are telling people about financial planning. And having insurance and will writing is part and parcel of the financial planning process. You see, when you're able to tell them that Macro Mutual not only has a plan to help you achieve your financial goals, but we're also talking about covering yourself just in case you fall victim to one of the 36 critical illnesses. And if you know of people who have passed away without a will, you will realize how difficult it is for the people he or she leaves behind. And if you, as a Macro Mutual Unit Trust advisor, can advise them in these areas, you will find that people's esteem of you goes up. And not only that, on top of people's giving you more respect of what you know, what you are advising them to do, these products will also give you extra income. And that's what we're looking for as well, right? Alright, moving on. How do you then get people, convince people to do regular investment? How do you get people to come out to you and say, okay, I will put aside 1,000 ringgit every month after an initial lump sum? Well, this is what you do. You see, in life, my friends, for the majority of people, there are two major concerns in life. What are those two major concerns? Number one, my friends, is retirement. Everybody needs to retire. And so the question then is, what kind of a retirement do you want to have? Do you want to be in a situation where money is tight all the time? Or you want to be in a situation where you will really reap the labor of all your life while you're working? And now you're harvesting it. You can really relax with the one you love, enjoy all the good things in life. Now let me show you what the EPF yield has been throughout all these years. Okay? EPF pays on the average, after you see this whole graph, you see that they pay on the average about 5.65%. Let me ask you a question. Is 5.65% a year good enough for you? Given the fact that inflation hovers between 5 to 6%. You will find that you will barely make ends meet. Isn't that true? And here's something more for you to ponder, and not only for you, but for your clients to ponder. And that is, according to the EPF 2011 statistics, which you can find in their website, they say that in the year, last year, 2011, there were about 40,000 male members who were age 54, which means they only have one more year to work. And at that age, all of them had an average, or rather they only have an average amount of 166,000 ringgit in their account. Now let me ask you a question. In Malaysia, it is quite common to find people living up to the age of 75 and beyond. And let's just say 75. So a person retires at 55. To live until 75, he has 20 years. In order to go through that, the 20 years, he only has 166,000 ringgit, which works out to be roughly 8,000 ringgit a year for 20 years, which works out to be roughly 800 ringgit a month. What kind of a lifestyle can you have with just 800 ringgit a month to go by? Now, obviously this is an average figure. There are people who have a lot more money in their account in the EPF accounts. But when we say there are people who have more money in their accounts, it is only logical to then know that there are people with less money in their accounts. And so how can they retire? Or should I say, what kind of a lifestyle will they have? Will they have to scrimp and save and cut corners? How sad life would be, right? And if you are a female, the figures are even more frightening. They have an average of just 119,000. And you know that in Malaysia, women live longer than men, generally speaking. So, having said that, that's the first one. That's the major concern, one of the major concerns of people, how to retire, whether they retire in style or retire in poverty. Then the second major concern of most people is education. because cost of education continue to go up. Now, do you know how much you will need if you have a child aged 10 years today? And in order to fund him or her to university, do you know how much it can take? How much it will cost you? Well, we are saying now, those are the two major concerns, financial goals of any normal person living in Malaysia. Now, I want to take you to, knowing those two are the concerns, your monthly sales plan in order to meet their concerns is this. We are asking you to consider this. From today onwards, if every month you manage to find 5 people who can come up with an initial investment of 30,000 ringgit and every month set aside 3,000 ringgit a month as regular savings, you will be able to meet your goal of becoming an Emerald member, having at least 20 million in your total client funds in a short period of time. But why do we come up with the figure 30 plus 3? Well, look at the planner on your screen. And here we are talking about a person whose child is just 10 years old, who's just 8 years old, 8 years old, and in 10 years' time, the person will need, this particular child will need to go to the university. And you will realize that because the cost of education is so high, we are not even talking about a full 4 years overseas, in this case Australia. So we are taking the more prudent approach where the child will do 2 years here and do 2 years in Australia. Why Australia and not fully here? Well, some parents would like their children to have the overseas exposure, isn't that true? But let's just say he wants to educate the child overseas. And so we have a twinning program in case he cannot make it, for the whole 4 years, right? In terms of expenses. So in this case, 2 years here, 2 years there, you know how much it costs? It costs you a whopping 600,000 ringgit to fund your child through university in 10 years' time. And that is also given the fact that 2 years are spent here, the other 2 years are there. And if a person comes up with an initial 30,000 ringgit, 10 years later he will have built enough money for the child to go to university and graduate in 10 years' time. So every month after an initial 30,000, he will have to pay about 3,000 ringgit a month. And that's how we come up with the figure 30 plus 3. Now, let me ask you a question. Are there people who can have 30,000 to set aside now? The answer is yes and no. It depends on who you're looking for. You know, my friends, I'm sure you know by now in Malaysia today, you find that many people in their early 30s are already earning 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 a month. And imagine if husband and wife both work, they would have a disposable income of quite a large amount, isn't that true? It is just that sometimes we do not go and see or seek out such people. Why? Maybe it could be because we are not prepared, we are not ready, and therefore we are not confident enough. But I want to tell you that there are people who are willing to put aside such kind of money. Why? Because all parents would want their child to do well in life. And people realize that if a child does not have a good, strong education base, the child will find it very difficult to succeed in life. Well, so that's the reason why we have 30 plus 3. Now let me show you this. First of all, why sell regular savings plan? Here are all the reasons why you should sell regular savings plan besides helping you meet your 20 million ringgit target, right? Now first let me show you the impact of increasing initial investment versus increasing regular investment. In other words, if you have a person starting off with 30k plus 1k every month, instead of 10k plus, instead of on the opposite 10k plus 3k, a lot of people would always generally assume that you would make more money, you would grow your total client funds much faster if you have a bigger initial amount. But the fact remains that when you have a smaller amount, but with increasing regular investments, you'll find that you reach your target a lot faster, and also your income grows much faster as well. Let me show you something. Number one, if you have a 10,000 initial investment, plus every month your client gives you 1,000, and you find 5 people doing that, you will find on the board, these are your commission. Which means that by the 3rd year, that means without fail, every month 5 people, each setting aside 10,000 and then 1,000 ringgit every month. After the 3rd year, your commission would be 10,000 ringgit a month. Now, what if you decide to go a little bit higher and find 5 people who can invest 20,000 ringgit and then set aside 2K or 2,000 ringgit every month? But we are saying that if you do that, on the 3rd year, your commission would have doubled. And what then if you have decided to find 5 people per month, each giving you 30,000 as an initial investment and 3,000 ringgit every month? By the 3rd year, you would have 32,000 ringgit in commission every month. Isn't that something? Now, on the other hand, if you look at this 10 plus 1, 20 plus 1 or 30 plus 1, that means rising initial investment versus 10 plus 2, 10 plus 3, you see the 10 plus 3, even though the initial amount is smaller, right? Not 30,000, but just 10,000. But the regular investment from 1,000, it becomes 3,000. You see the difference down there? In the 3rd year, you would have actually earned 25,000. And you will agree with me that getting people to come up with 10,000 is comparatively easier than getting people to come up with 30,000, isn't that true? So you start them low and slow, and you find that you will achieve both for yourself what you want as well as for what the client wants. Now let's look at your cumulative TCF, right? 10 plus 1, 20 plus 2, 30 plus 3. Remember, we want to take you to your 20 million figure as soon as possible, yeah? So now, if you have 5 people, each doing 20, 30 plus 1, 20 plus 2, 30 plus 3, we are saying that if you take just the first one, where you are selling cases of 5 people, each coming out with 30,000 initially and 3,000 monthly, you will have reached your end in mind, which is your emerald status. You would have reached it in under 3 years. If on the other hand, you find you have 5 people investing 20,000 a month, 20,000 initially plus 2,000 a month, you would reach your figure in 4 years. The rest, if you concentrate on just 10,000 plus 1 category, 5 people every month without fail, you will reach your figure in 6 years. Now, that doesn't mean that you are just supposed to sell to people who can afford 30,000 initially and 3,000 every month. You will still accept from others. But we are saying that you need to target high. Because if you target low, the chances are you will not go and see people of a higher net worth who can afford this kind of money. But if you go to see them higher, yes, they may not give you your 30,000, but certainly they can give you a little bit less. But you will still get that. So we are saying that as in the mixture of all this, we are asking you, no matter what strategy you use, whatever sales you bring in, we are asking you to ensure that you reach your 20 million in the fastest possible way. Reason? We already said in the first module, your initial sales charges will fall, which means that your commission, transaction-based commission will fall. And we do not know when that will happen. So we are asking you therefore to make hay while the sun shines. As long as we are still able to charge the 6.5%, 5.5%, you will find that not only you are going to build up your fund size, more importantly, you are also going to make some very good money for your own future, right? So, Benefits of selling regular savings plan. Well, number one, it's easy to sell. Two, it represents exponential growth, as you can see in the charts that we showed you just now. And you will have quality total client funds. Quality, why? Because when they come in with 1,000, 1,000 or 3,000 or 2,000 every month, you find that you can put all of them in equity. Why? Because the expectations are lower. Because the sales charges are not so frightening, if I may use the word. Okay? And then you will have, you can sell equity funds in all market conditions. Why? Because you are practicing the dollar cost averaging principle. Yes. And of course, it is much easier to manage clients' expectations when they come in with smaller amounts than a huge lump sum, right? And of course, as you do that, one of the main reasons why you should sell regular savings plan is that you qualify for incentive trips very easily. And that's the reason why you look at our Emerald members, they qualify for almost every trade. Why? Simply because they have got this regular investment coming in. In fact, they can look forward to each trip without really working really hard. Why? Because of the regular investments. What about the benefits of the regular savings plan for your investors? Number one, it's affordable. Coming out with 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 is much easier than a person coming out with 100,000 or 200,000. Yes? Then you are practicing dollar cost averaging. And you know that dollar cost averaging works in the long term, regardless of market condition. No market timing worries. You don't have to worry whether the KLCI is already very high or whether it is very low or will go down lower. All this will now be a thing of the past. You don't have to worry about that anymore. And also more importantly, it is for savings. I want to tell you something. Many younger people, they find it very difficult to start saving, isn't that true? And if they put the money in the bank, it's so convenient to just go to the bank, pop in their card in the ATM machine, and take out the money. But when they start saving in mutual funds, especially in macro mutual, they will find it a little bit more not so convenient to take the money, and the chances are that they'll leave the money there. And I don't know about you, whether you agree or not, but when people see their money grow, they are more motivated to continue to see it grow. Because these are just human nature. When they see something working well, they take pleasure in that. Well, what will you get if you follow our plan? We say that if you're starting off as a UTA today, you will become a UTMA, which is our highest tier, where you get your 0.4% on your career benefits. Where from the 20 million, if you put them all in equity, you actually get a career benefit of 8,000 ringgit a month. You'll be promoted in 3 years to become UTMA. You'll be entitled to all our yearly trips. Here are some examples of all those wonderful things that people have gone and done after they achieve our trips. And then, more importantly, if you follow a plan, you become a millionaire by the end of year 4. And lastly, you could be a Macro Diamond. And if the market has a cumulative average growth rate of 6 to 8%. My friends, at this point in time in Macro Mutual, there is only one diamond left. Why don't you and I decide to aspire to be the next one? Now, what I want you to do is turn off your video, go down to our website and answer the next set of questions, which will then allow you to go to Module 3.